I am interested in an area where the circumcision psychological defense mechanism breaks down, or where the defense mechanism of the circumcised male necessarily breaks down. Let me explain. There are certain things that the circumcised boy and man will be told. In general, I think that the first line, the low-hanging fruit, the first-line defense of the circumcision psychological defense mechanism is this claim of hygiene. Sort of this generic claim of hygiene. I'm cleaner. Even I'm better. I'm cleaner, I'm better. Circumcision is cleaner. This is, it's what the boy may absorb from the culture, from his friend, from a peer group, from the media, maybe. Could absorb it from the media. It's what his parents will almost certainly tell him if there's ever a confrontation over circumcision as a young man or boy. I guarantee the claim will be it's cleaner. I guarantee it will be the first thing out of the parents' mouths. And in fact, studies have actually investigated this. And indeed, a generic claim of hygiene is the most often stated reason for circumcising in pro-circumcision parents. Now, mind you, the most predictive variable of their whether or not they be for circumcision was the circumcision status of the father. Once again, circumcision has nothing to do with the boy. It has to do with the psychological problems of the parents. But anyway, it's the most often cited reason. So his parents will tell it to him, the media will tell it to him, his peer group will tell it to him. This is what he will get, and it will become the first-line defense mechanism whenever he ever gets challenged on circumcision. The first words out of his mouth are going to be, but circumcision is cleaner. I'm cleaner. I'm clean-cut. More hygienic. And I'm better. There's an undertone of I'm better because of it. This breaks down the moment your son realizes that one of his friends is uncircumcised. What happens when your son figures out that one of his friends is not circumcised? This attitude of, well, just in general, right? Let's say for the sake of the argument, people old enough to be talking about this cognitively, intellectually, say 15 to 25 or 30, let's keep it in sort of a young bracket. Even when you were kids, your generation, could easily have had between a quarter and a third of the boys uncircumcised. And I know that it's not geographically evenly distributed, but let's just say for the sake of the argument, your son could have had a friend who is uncircumcised. And by the way, the people being born now and in the coming years, the numbers are already as low as 45%. I mean, it was 55% 10 years ago, and falling at a rate of maybe 1% a year. We could easily be at 45% now. And again, it's not evenly distributed. But even in the most circumcised areas like the Midwest and more rural parts of the Northeast, easily a third are uncircumcised. And in places like the Pacific Northwest, it's very low. So just for the sake of the argument, your son will encounter uncircumcised boys on a reasonably regular basis, and one of them could be his friend. What happens when your son realizes his best friend is uncircumcised? all this stuff about hygiene and being better, it starts short-circuiting your son's brain. He has, because he's immediately confronted with a choice in which both options are really bad for him. He has to think he is better and sort of be grossed out by his friend. And sort of distance himself psychologically from his friend. Or he comes to the sort of real realization that he's not... The hygiene thing is bullshit, which I think a lot of kids probably recognize that regardless. But that, in fact, he is the one that is at the distinct disadvantage. His friend didn't have part of his penis cut off, and he did. Again, I've long said that the dialectic, the confrontation that happens between circumcised and uncircumcised boys does not break down along the lines of, he's not circumcised. It's, oh my God, somebody cut off part of my penis. I'm missing part of my penis. It's which one is missing part of his penis. So your son will either have to be grossed out by his friend and think that he is beneath him, or he will have to think, basically, that he is beneath his friend, that his friend is in a much better position than him, and he was made worse off by circumcision. I suppose he could go into a state of doublethink as well, which may or may not fracture into some cognitive dissonance of realizing, I hitherto have simultaneously thought, I'm better because I'm circumcised, but my best friend isn't circumcised. And it starts going haywire. I don't... do you think this is a healthy situation for your son to be in? This is a horrible situation. Both of which could truly end up in your son maybe actually distancing himself from his friend. Like the friendship actually falling apart because of this. I mean, this is just so horrible. So, tell me what you think. The place where the main psychological defense mechanism of circumcised men breaking down, when their best friend, not just their peer group, but that one of their close friends is circumcised. And this is a possibility parents have to contend with, just as a statistical reality. Your son could end up with a friend that is not circumcised. What happens? The place where the psychological defense mechanism of the circumcised man breaks down, when he has an uncircumcised friend. Tell me what you think, folks. Tell me in the comments. Take care. Bye-bye.